Apple couldn't do it, Dyson couldn't do it. Huawei's kind of doing it, Xiaomi's done it. This is Inside China Auto, and this is the Xiaomi SU7. Yes, this is the Xiaomi SU7, or SU7 as some people call it. It is, of course, Xiaomi's first ever car, and what a job they have done on the styling with this thing. I can tell you, of all the cars we've driven on this channel, none have garnered even half of the interest of this car. There's going to be a lot of chiropractor appointments this week because some people have been literally twisting their neck right off to get a look at this car. Whether it's the styling, whether it's the fact that it looks very heavily like a Porsche, whether it's the colour, I don't know, but many people very, very interested in this car. As I just said, it is very similar to a Porsche. That's probably one of the reasons why it does look quite stylish. Quite like the Taycan, pebble-like styling at the front, heavily raked A-pillar, long ducktail down towards the back here, big wide arches, soft, subtle sculpting down the side. It's a very, very attractive car, very, very heavily inspired by a Porsche. I do think that Lei Jun, the boss of Xiaomi, must have been very impressed by Porsche and thought, hey, you know, that's a good place to start in terms of styling for our car. They have done a pretty good job with it. I mean, this is also a Porsche colour, by the way. It's bay blue. It's very, very similar to one I saw on a Macan the other day. Actually, quite a few colours in the Xiaomi colour palette, very similar to those of Porsche. They've just been very heavily inspired by Porsche. I think we can accept that. But we do get down here these almond-shaped headlamps, also with 4 little individual units in there, very similar, again, to a Porsche Taycan, but very attractive headlamps. It's a very smooth profile, this, 0.195 drag coefficient. Most buyers don't care about that, but it is good for your efficiency, and it does make this car cut through the air very nicely. Now, if I press this button here, nothing happens. If I do this, the bonnet pops up. Now, that's not really a magic trick, that's just a play of the camera. You can actually open the bonnet though via the screen rather than via a handle underneath the dashboard. So that's quite nice. Now in here, we do get a massive 105 litre front, one of many very thoughtful storage spaces that you get in the Xiaomi SU7. Big space there. We also get an AMG inspired plaque on here, 220 kilowatts, 400 newton meters of torque, which tells you that this is the base rear wheel drive version of this car. But we'll come on to that in the driving experience. As I said, very inspired by Porsche, very stylish. We've got 19-inch alloys down here. You can get 20 and 21-inch alloys as options. You can also get Brembo 4-pot brake calipers as well to give you extra stopping power. We've got cameras here on the side and under the mirror. What we don't get on the base version of this car is a LiDAR unit up here. The Pro and Max versions, they do get a LiDAR unit, and they can do urban autonomous driving as well as highway driving, which this one can. We get frameless door mirrors here, very stylish, very Polestar-esque. Blacked out trim around the windows, and we get also frameless windows as well to enhance that coupe profile. Very, very stylish. It's quite a long car, this, just under 5 meters long, very lithe, very sporty, especially so at the back here where it does feel like it's hugging the ground with these big wide arches here, real aero down there, big diffuser across the bottom, and on the more powerful versions, you do get an active rear spoiler here as well, just in this kind of ducktail lip here. It does look quite a bit like a Porsche as designed by Grand Theft Auto, I'm not going to lie, but I do like the halo design around here, which is quite unique. Looks very nice at night time. We get a boot lid, electric boot lid in here, and inside 517 litres of space. That is a big boot, much bigger than that on the Zeekr 007, by the way. But you get 40/60 folding rear seats. You get a lot of space under the boot floor there as well. Not the easiest thing in the world to get a bassinet and a pram frame in there at the same time, but suitcases, you should have no problem. Yeah, I mean, as designs go, I think Xiaomi have done a pretty decent job with this. Now, the interior of the SU7 is perhaps one of the most thoughtful interiors that I've sat in. Certainly the best connected. There's some fascinating stuff that goes on inside this screen, and a bit more that we'll talk about when we get into the back seats as well. And overall, it is quite a pleasant atmosphere in here as well. It does feel quite sporty, the way the dash comes out here. So we've got this little screen down here, 7.1-inch screen. This actually rotates. Watch this. If I press the brake button and then press the start button, it rotates and goes back to this silhouette of a car there. So that's really quite cool. It's a little bit of a gimmick, but I like it, a little bit of extra drama. And you've actually got ventilation above and below that screen as well, so you can get it straight through the steering wheel. Now, yeah, it's as I said, very nice and light and airy. Good materials. You get an environmentally friendly leather on top of the dashboard. You get a bit of suede in the doors. You get a bit of, I think it's fake wood here on the dashboard, kind of an ash style there, and metallic feeling surfaces. They're not really metallic, but they do feel good. It does feel really well screwed together. There's nothing really falling apart in here, which is nice. I mean, we've got the white colour interior, which is nice and light and airy. You can get a red/orange interior for a more sporty look. You can get a purple interior for a more romantic look, I guess, and black if you're boring. By the way, on the Max version, you can also get a suede headlining as well. We get the standard version on ours. But overall, the seating position is pretty good. We're sat quite low down here. You can see the kind of the domes over the arches there. They've got a very raked A-pillar here, so it does feel very sporty. The steering wheel does help as well. It does feel a little bit like a Logitech G29, a little bit plasticky, but it's quite sporty. You get a autonomous driving button here, and on this side you get the drive mode button, so you can turn that to change your drive modes. You can press it to go into boost mode to get a little bit of extra power on demand as and when you need it for 20 seconds. I'll show you that when we do the driving part. But yeah, I mean, the seats are very, very good, I would say, on the whole. At least on the side, we've got these big chunky side bolsters, very big, so they hold your waist in place pretty well when you're driving in a kind of a fast fashion. The downside is no tilt angle adjustment and no base cushion extension. I think in a sporty car like this, it would definitely benefit to have those, just to make you feel a little bit more in that sort of racing driver position. But yeah, it's not a bad seating position, and I mean the seats themselves are very attractive. One-piece seats. You do get 2 speakers in the headrest here as well as part of the speaker pack. Speaking of which, you get 10 speakers on the standard version. You can specify a 25 speaker sound system. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all over the car. And the top as well. 7.1.4 surround sound, Dolby Atmos, and it's actually a really good system as well. I put some high quality music on from QQ Music before. It was excellent. Played really, really well. Lots of treble and lots of bass at the same time. In terms of how it is thoughtful, well, a lot of that comes down to the storage spaces. Apparently there are 31 separate storage spaces in here. I can't count 31, but you do get umbrella pockets in the door, as well as your normal door pocket as well. You get a little pocket down here. You get a big pocket down here. You get a sunglasses holder at the front there. You get 2 more pockets hidden back here, one of which is expandable so that you can actually put a fragrance pot in there, or even a charger for Xiaomi walkie-talkies. So there's the connectivity. If you want to go on a convoy, you can have your walkie-talkies in there. And there's even more hidden spaces. Underneath here, there are 2 fold-out shopping hooks under there, and 2 hooks as well to put in a Xiaomi torch if you want to have an emergency torch as well. We also get, of course, a cubby here as well, and we get a really deep glove box down there. We get a few different bits of connectivity. So we get a USB socket under there, so you can plug more Xiaomi stuff in, because of course Xiaomi is a consumer electronics brand, so you can connect to a lot of that stuff, and that's what I'm going to come on to next. On this screen here, 16.1 inch screen, 3K, and runs on Snapdragon 8295, so it's super quick, as you can see by spinning around this car here. That's very nice indeed. If I put it into the start mode, so you see how screen rotates around again. What we get here are these tiles. You can drag these across to make them a bit bigger or a bit smaller. You can also, if you drag that one across there, you can slide like this over to there, and you can even move them around. So if you just want to drag that one, move it over to this side, you can do so. Got your ventilation down at the bottom, you've got your music connectivity down there as well, and a bunch more apps in here. But this is where it gets really interesting, because there's a lot more to this screen than meets the eye. For a start, underneath here is some connectivity so that you can put in basically a line of buttons and a dial in the middle. Now I don't have that to show you. I'll try and put a picture of that on the screen so you can see it. But if you don't want everything being on the screen, being a touch screen, you can have physical buttons attached to the screen. I haven't seen that done on any car before. So that's really quite cool. On the right side, if I drag down here, I get the functionality for the right side seat. On the left side, I get the functionality for the left side seat, including heating, cooling, and adjusting your mirrors as well. Mirrors are a bit annoying because you have to select on the screen left or right. You can't simply do left on this side and right on that side, which feels like a little bit of a miss. But you also get on this one, by the way, here, the MiGR Home. So MiGR is basically Xiaomi Home. Xiaomi make a lot of things like air cleaners, air conditioners, fridges, robot vacuums, phone chargers, doorbells, security cameras, you name it, they probably make it. And you can connect all of that through the screen here. So if you've got a a Xiaomi doorbell, for example, and you're out driving and a delivery guy comes and knocks on your door, you can actually talk to him through the car and see his picture up there on the screen, which is really nice. And if you have one of these smart speakers at home, you can talk to the smart speaker and say, hey Xiaomi, it's a cold day, can you put the heated steering wheel on and warm up the cabin, put the heated seats on as well, and it'll do all that for you. So some really cool stuff built into this screen here. As well as that screen, you don't get it on the base version, so the one that we have, we don't get it, but you can get a 56-inch heads-up display there as well as a third screen for the car. And again, I'll come on to stuff in the back once we get there. A few other things, we get a 50-watt vented wireless charger, but only one. It does feel like we should have two, to be honest, in a car of this size. And annoyingly, you have to put your NFC card on there to start, and then you can put your phone on, so that's a little bit disappointing. You get two USB-C sockets down there, 67 watts, so they're both pretty quick. You can do wireless CarPlay on here, by the way, as well. Forgot to mention that. You can connect Android phones via ICCOA, whatever that is, and you can also connect your Apple phone wirelessly, do Apple CarPlay on here as well if you really want to. And again, I'll come on to the Apple connectivity once we get into the back. But overall, really nice interior in the front. We get 12-way adjustability, by the way, on this seat here, and 6-way on there. You get heating and ventilation as standard on the two front seats. Massage, not an option in the Xiaomi SU7, which does feel like a little bit of a loss, I would say. And yeah, I mean, overall, it is a nice interior. I think it's amazingly connected, really, really practical. Does miss a few key features that I think you might want, like the twin wireless chargers, like massage seats on the front. But overall, you can't really argue with what you're getting in here. The speaker system, very good. It's very nice. Oh, by the way, on the Max version as well, you do get a few more switches down here. We've got a couple of physical switches for your temperature and your ventilation speed there, and start-stop, which you don't even really need to press, to be totally honest with you. You do get a couple more buttons here on the Max version, probably to change through things like drift mode and stuff like that. In the back, I would say we get a reasonable amount of space, so headroom is all right. Not too bad, despite the fact that we've got a rakish roofline there. You get plenty of knee room. Foot room is adequate, I would say, with this seat as low as it'll go. You'll have a bit more room if you lift that seat up there. You get quite a few useful storage spaces. So you get a door pocket here. You get a space for an umbrella underneath this seat and under that seat as well. And you get a space to store your phone down there with twin 18-watt USB-C chargers. You also, by the way, get heating as standard on the two outside seats, but there's no button here to activate that, so you've got to talk to the car and ask the car to do it. We also have in our car specified the 4.3 litre fridge/heater. So in there you can store some cans and bottles. I'm not going to say an exact amount because I couldn't really work it out. It depends on the size of the can and the bottle. But you can store them between 2 to 15 degrees or 36 to 50 degrees, which is good. So heating and cooling functions in there as well. We've also got this enormous panoramic roof, which is silver coated, so it keeps out the UV rays and the sun rays as well. So it keeps the cabin relatively cool, I would say, but there's no canopy cover for it, I'm afraid, sadly. We do get an armrest as well, by the way, and twin cup holders in there. These seats do fold down flat, as I said. But the real interesting thing in the back of the SU7 is right here. So on the back of these two front seats, we have docks, and in the docks you can put a Xiaomi tablet or an Apple iPad, and they can connect directly to the main screen in the middle. So you can interchange your apps, you can connect to the music, you can connect to videos, you can watch different videos if you want, and you can get it all in the back of your car. So if you have kids or you just want to entertain your backseat passengers, that's a really, really useful feature you can have there that not many other cars have, that interoperability between Android tablets like a Xiaomi one or an Apple tablet as well. So you can connect all to CarPlay, do all that inside the car. So it's really, really nice. You also get a bit of ambient lighting, high quality materials all over, little door hooks up there. And of course, what we do get is top tethers and ISOFIX mountings down at the bottom for baby seats, which means it's time to check out how easy it is to get a car seat into the back of a Xiaomi SU7. So the car seat has returned and we can now test how easy it is to get the baby seat into the back of a Xiaomi SU7. First things first, it is quite low down. Got a fairly small door space here, so it will be a bit of a challenge. But if we pop up our ISOFIX mountings down there, get our baby seat, slide it in this way, guide those into there. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Not bad at all. Still rotate it as well, just about fit it behind that front seat. All good, about 5 seconds. A lot easier than it was on the Geely Galaxy. Now the SU7 is marketed as being quite a sporty car. I mean, it looks like a Porsche, It's got the diffuser at the back, it's got all the sporty elements on it, and it is a quick car. It also comes with a few interesting features, such as boost mode, the launch mode, and on the more powerful versions, the drift mode. What I'm going to show you now is the launch mode. So what we have to do is switch the car into sport, press down the brake and the accelerator at the same time, hold them down, get this orb on the screen, and then release. And the car will now sprint to 100 kilometers per hour in 5.28 seconds on the base version that we have. It will do it in 5.7 seconds on the version with the rear motor and the larger battery, and it will do it in 2.78 seconds in the dual motor version of this car. So it is very much a sports car, and honestly it does feel like one. It feels really good. The ride is excellent actually on pretty much most surfaces. We don't get the air springs and continuous damping control on the base version. You don't get it on the Pro version either. But I have to say, the ride quality, very, very good over some bad surfaces, choppy surfaces and, fairly kind of high frequency surfaces. It's pretty good. Maybe not quite as good as the Zeekr 007, but still very, very competent ride. And it steers really nicely as well. It's got a good steering weight, especially in sport when it starts to load up a little bit more, gives it a lot more feeling. It feels very, very dynamic, very planted. When you throw it around some corners, the thing that you find the most on the rear motor version is that it just wants to push on and understeer. I have to say, I posted a video on Twitter of an SU7, some guy blasting it out of a junction and binning it into a bush. And I can tell you, on normal driving mode, in a rear drive version, you cannot do that. The traction control is simply too good to let that happen. What I highly suspect was going on there was they were in the max version and they were in drift mode, which obviously turns off pretty much most of those acceleration restrictions. Because I found when I pushed it really hard in this, the back end just will not step out. On wet concrete, yes. On any other surface, no. It's too strong. It takes all the power away. It's very, very effective in terms of a traction control system. But yeah, as I said, it is a fast car. Enjoyable to steer, good steering on this. You don't really get a lot of settings in the system to change that, to be honest. You can't really change the steering, you can't change, well, this one doesn't have the suspension to change anyway. Maybe you get more options in the max version, I'm not sure, but we can't really change anything in this. You can customize the brake regen, and on all settings we've got it on 100 at the moment, and I have to say, pretty effective. It's quite useful. The one pedal drive mode, we do have the option to do it to a stop or to a roll. That will be reduced, or that will be removed, I should say, in China pretty soon, because they're taking away the allowance for a car to come to a full stop. They're getting rid of that, so it's going to have to be a roll in future, which is a shame because I like it when it comes to a stop. But it's very effective. It works really well, and you can adjust it from 0 to 100 to make it as strong or as light as you want. In all of the driving modes, you can customize that. What I would say is, I found when I first got into the SU7, it is quite a bit more sensitive than other cars, so it does require a bit more deftness to drive it smoothly. So the acceleration and the braking, both quite sharp, so you have to be a lot more modulation, let's say, with your foot work on that. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but on the whole, once you've got used to it, it is a really, really pleasant car to drive. Not the quietest. We don't have double glazing in our car like you get in a 007, for example. So it's a little bit louder in terms of the external noise coming in. You do get, if you're on sport mode, you might be able to hear it in the background, this kind of rumbling acceleration noise. Yeah, that's just kind of a sound effect that kind of makes it sound like it's got an engine. I'll switch back to eco mode to turn that off. Anyway, as I said, quick car. You get three options of this car. You get the base version, which we have, which is a rear drive motor, as you know, 220 kilowatts, 400 Newton meters of torque, and that is the same on the Pro version as well. The Max version has that motor stuck on the front axle with the torque tuned down to 338 Newton meters, and they get a 275 kilowatt motor on the rear axle with 500 Newton meters of torque, which is basically 495 kilowatts of power, about 660 horsepower, and 838 Newton meters of torque. It is absolutely ridiculous. Now, I would say for the average driver, this one is absolutely fine. 200 kilowatts on the motor on the rear axle is good. 220, it just adds that extra little sporty element, and it works really well in this car. The other difference between the three, is the battery size. So we get a 73.6 kilowatt hour battery in ours, which is good for 700 kilometers on the CLTC cycle. The Pro version gets a 94.3 kilowatt hour battery, good for 830 kilometers on the CLTC cycle. And the Max version gets a 101 kilowatt hour battery, good for 800 kilometers of range, again on CLTC. In reality, it does not achieve anything like that. Now, to caveat that, I have had the fridge on, I've had the aircon on, I've been driving it in sport mode a lot of the time because it is a lot of fun to drive in sport mode. But I found that you can change it in the system to have either the CLTC range or the estimated range. And even compared to the estimated range, I managed to only get about 78% of the stated mileage on there. So compared to the CLTC, it was 69%, or 61%. So really not the most effective in terms of efficiency. Now this is a 400 volt platform, so in terms of charging times, the base version, 25 minutes, 10 to 80%. The Pro version, 30 minutes, and the Max version is a bit faster at 19 minutes. Another interesting thing about this car, you can do V2V, so you can charge another car, but only at 6.6 kilowatts. So a little bit less than the Zeekr 007's 60 kilowatts, but that is an 800 volt platform. Now in terms of prices, actually quite well priced, this thing. It does start at 215,900 RMB, which is about 23,000 pounds. So it's really, really cheap at the bottom end. The Pro version, 245,900. I'll do the currency translations at the bottom because I don't remember all of them. And the Max version, with all the bells and whistles, all the stuff on, is 299,900 RMB. I don't believe the speakers, the 25 speakers, are included on the Max. You still have to option that as an additional thing. But yeah, honestly, it's actually a really pleasant car to drive. I found it very enjoyable. To be fair, I have some very enjoyable roads to drive it on. The ones where I am now are quite twisty with some amazing views. It's a car that becomes quite intuitive once you get going. And as I said, once pushed, it is really enjoyable to drive. I would say it's probably a bit better than the Zeekr 007. It doesn't feel quite as sensitive on the steering as the BYD Song, but I do think the chassis is quite a bit more capable than the Song. The Song was definitely erring more on the side of understeer. This one does too, but it does hold on for a lot longer. It keeps the body roll to an absolute minimum. And as I said, even with the lack of air suspension, with the air springs and the continuous damping control, it's really good drive actually, a really good ride on all surfaces. So in summary, yes, I would say it would qualify well enough as a sports car. I haven't driven a Taycan, so I can't tell you if it's quite as good as that. I suspect probably not quite. But as a first car, they've definitely done some engineering work on this that works really, really well. It's obviously rapidly quick, even more so in the Max form. It's a really pleasant car to drive overall and really capable when you throw it around the corners. I'd love to try it on a racetrack. I think it would be quite amazing, quite good to drive on a racetrack. But yeah, I think the only real downside is the efficiency. It doesn't seem to live quite up to expectations. But if you have the aircon on and the sport mode, perhaps that's what you'd expect. I don't know, I think that's a little bit below CLTC, because CLTC is generally about 20 to 25% less in reality, and this is more like 39% based on how I've driven it. Admittedly, we are in Kunming as well, which does mean that you're driving uphill quite a lot of the time, and I have been driving it on hairpin roads, so that's probably affected the efficiency quite a bit. But on the whole, a great car to drive. So that's it for our review of the Xiaomi SU7, a car that is every bit as good as they said it would be. Cars like this, with so much hype and so much expectation, are so difficult to review because you have to separate all that from the reality. But the reality is, this car delivers on everything that they said that it would. It's a great steer, great ride composure, great handling as well. It's got a lovely interior. It's got tech that nobody else can offer right now, next level tech. It looks amazing, and it's got a great price tag in China as well. No announcement on if it's going to go to Europe or anywhere like that in the future, but when it does come, and I'm pretty sure it will, it's going to surprise a lot of people. Thank you very much for watching, and if you do, thank you for subscribing. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up so more people can see the great cars coming out of China. And as ever, we'll catch you next time.